Hey, what is up guys? Welcome to MST.TV. This is Nishi here bringing you all another Market Watch episode. Now admittedly, this week has been a little bit slower in terms of movement on the market. Now even though we did just have two YCS events last weekend, I feel like there weren't any amazingly huge changes going on. Obviously, we're seeing a lot of hype still around the Shaddoll Invoke deck, and the Invoked cards are quite expensive. Also, even though Salamangreats won yet another event, they're probably the most budget meta deck we've seen in the game since something like Monarchs with Pantheism at 3. And then even though two Rocket decks were on the winning team at YCS Las Vegas, Rockets also won the UDS the weekend before, so maybe it wasn't as shocking and didn't cause as much of a stir as the news did before. But yeah, so today we're actually going to be jumping a little bit all over the place. We're going to take a look at a bunch of different cards, some of which have jumped up in price fairly recently, and others which have been steadily climbing in price over time. But yeah, let's jump right into it. Alright, so the first card we're talking about here is Forbidden Chalice. This is a pretty simple quick play spell. You activate it to target a monster on the field, negate its effect but increase its attack power by 400. So this is very simple effect negation, very similar to Infinite Impermanence or Effect Veiler. This card does have some benefits over those other cards though. So whereas with Effect Veiler, you can only use it during your opponent's main phase, but with Chalice, you can use it during your own turn, allowing you to hit something like Abyss Dweller. Also, unlike Infinite Impermanence, you can play it directly from your hand while you control cards, so Phantasme isn't going to deter you from playing it either. It does, of course, also have that neat little 400 attack point boost, so in really specific situations, I guess, you can use it to attack over a bigger monster. However, because of this attack boost, it can also be used in the damage step, so if you happen to attack over a Shaddoll monster or a Subterra Guru, you can negate that monster's effect during the damage step, which is pretty cool as well. One final important thing to note is that you can search this card off of Condemned Witch. Now, Condemned Witch has been talked about as a card that can be useful in generators, as you contribute Witch to bring out the new Shadow Boss during your opponent's turn, but which also allows you to search for Chalice on summon, so you can fetch that free negation. Now, at the moment, we're looking at around $70 lowest for an Ultimate Rare Unlimited copy of Forbidden Chalice on TCG Player, which I think is pretty crazy. This card does have a lot of different common printings, so if you really need to play it, just use a few of those. While it is interesting to see this older tech card that could be meta relevant once again, it probably still isn't worth that hype price. So don't buy into it, and if you have it, I would definitely recommend trying to sell it while you can. Next up, let's take a look at Black Metal Dragon. So this is a level 1 monster that is intended to be Red Eyes support. When it's sent from the field to the graveyard, you get to search for a Red Eyes card from your deck. On one hand, you could potentially use this card in Guard Dragon decks in order to search out Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon. Now, I don't know if this is actually like 100% what it's used for, since I feel like you're better off just not playing this card and then using LP to pull out the Red MD, but then again, I'm not like an expert on Guard Dragons or anything, so don't quote me on that. Now, on the other hand, it does say Red Eyes card, so you could theoretically use this card to search out Red Eyes Fusion, which in turn suggests that this card is hyped up for the pending release of Dragoon of Red Eyes, which we still have no idea when we're getting in the TCG. Either way, this card is currently hyped up to around $7 at the moment, although it did hit as high as $10 a couple days ago, I believe, which is strange because I very clearly remember picking them up off of the tables at my locals from People's Bulk. If you do have it, I think that this card is just another card that you should try to sell as soon as possible, because it's more of just like that kind of odd combo piece that's nice to have in max rarity but not really necessary, kind of like having a DT Flamvel Guard or a DT Garnet. They were just unnecessarily expensive before. Now, this card does have multiple common printings as well, so maybe at like the very least, make sure you have access to a set of those commons for yourself just in case, but I would try to move the super rares for now while they are a little bit hyped up. Next, let's take a look at Unchained Abomination, and no, I am not referring to my ex-girlfriend, I am talking about the Link 4 monster from Chaos Impact. So first, let's say that there is a lot to like about this card. It is a Link 4 monster, but theoretically it provides 3 pops in a single turn. So if you're playing a deck like Unchained, or Rockets, or Fire Kings, and it's a deck that can benefit off of its own cards being destroyed, even if it's your first turn and you don't have a battle phase, you could realistically get 2 pops off of this card pretty easily. Another great thing about this card is that it only requires 2 monsters, so I can use a Link 3 like Nightmare Unicorn and a regular monster to make this card if I so choose. However, I think the big problem with this card is that it just doesn't measure up to a lot of other options that we have available in the game at the moment. If we had like 30 slots in the extra deck, then yes, absolutely this card would see more play, but with only 15, I would find it hard to justify using this card over an alternative rank 4 monster like Borrelsword Dragon, Borreload Dragon, or Appaloosa. If Appaloosa is too expensive for you, then for sure maybe this card is a decent budget option, but other than that, it's probably not going to see too much competitive play. Now at the moment, this card is around $9, which is about double its market price of $5 from about a month ago. If you want to hold on to this card, it's not a horrible choice, but I don't think that this is the type of card that I would be investing into multiple copies of, because I think it just isn't as good as a lot of other cards out there. Also, as a card from Chaos Impact, it is actually due to be reprinted in the Megatins this year. So yeah, until I see this card do amazingly well and consistently be in a lot of top decks, I'm going to have to recommend that this card be another sell as well. Okay, next up is one that kind of shot up out of nowhere, and that is Ultra Rare Zombie World from Legendary Collection Joey's World. So I don't know when it happened, but apparently Zombie World is now a $15 card. Actually, when I checked like a week or two ago, it was definitely over $20, maybe as high as like $25 I think, but it has clearly calmed down since then. So the only real catalyst that I can think of for this card is the new zombie archetype that's coming out in Secret Slayers. However, from what I remember, the new archetype actually contains a bunch of spells or traps with one main monster, so I think you would have to combine the new archetype with older staple zombie cards like Shiranui Solitaire and Unizombie. If so, and if you play the Doom King and Necroworld Banshee, then I guess Zombie World makes sense, as it's one of the few cards from zombies that would be easy to buy out, as Joey's World wasn't a very heavily opened product. Personally, I would stay away from this card. I actually have a set of Ultras that I'm looking to sell myself right now. I could actually see it definitely being reprinted in Secret Slayers as a super rare, as it currently only has one holo printing available, so be careful for that as well. Speaking of sets that weren't opened very much, Steam Synchron is a rare from Legendary Collection 5Ds. So while Joey's World had Sixth Sense as the chase card, I feel like there weren't as many extremely valuable cards in the 5Ds box. It had a couple of interesting cards like Max C or Secret Rare Glow Up Bulb, but no real like money chase card, and because of how little quantity there is on the market, we actually see a lot of random cards from that set jump up in price periodically. For example, Evil Thorn jumped up to like being a $3 common, Ultra Rare Blackwing Blizzard the North is randomly like a $5 card, and then even Secret Rare Black Garden hit almost $10 when Garden Rose Maiden was announced. Anyways, Steam Synchron is the latest card to be hyped up out of this set ever since the Master Rule adjustment was announced, as it is a Synchron monster, so it can be summoned off of the effect of Junk Speeder. Junk Speeder is potentially going to be a really cool card in a really cool deck after the new Master Rule comes into effect in April, and Steam Synchron is a one of in the deck, as it can be the level 3 option summoned by Junk Speeder's effect if you have already drawn or don't have any copies left in your deck of Junk Synchron. Despite only being a one of and kind of a brick, this card actually was ever only released in this Legendary Collection, making it quite hard to find, and so you're looking at paying about $10 for a single copy of this card. Now maybe I'm a little bit biased because I think the deck looks really interesting and I want to play it, but I'm holding on to the one copy of Steam Synchron that I have. If I had any more copies though, I'd probably be selling them because the deck definitely plays only one copy of this card, as it's just an important option to have access to. But yeah, if you ever did open up Legendary Collection 5Ds, this is definitely a card that is very easy to overlook that is worth a fair bit of money, so you should try to find it and set it aside while you can. Okay, so really briefly, I want to mention Fantastical because I actually had no idea that this card was even worth anything, but this random Link 2 monster is actually a $3 card. I didn't know about this card until I looked it up just like on a whim, but this card has only had the one printing from the same starter deck that Link Karibo got printed in. However, it is an important card in dinosaur decks because it can give Ultimate Conductor Tyranno the ability to pierce and deal huge damage if it attacks through a Lost World token. It is just a starter deck card, so we're not talking huge money or anything, but it is still worth a few dollars, whereas before I thought it was just bulk. I know that I have a lot of extra copies of this card lying around, since I know a lot of people that have opened up the starter deck just for Link Karibo, and I believe that that's actually the day where we played Yu-Gi-Oh! Day with like the sealed deck, and I think I actually won the mat that day. But yeah, just a card that you guys should note to not throw away, but actually set aside when you're going through your bulk cards. Alright, so in a previous video, I mentioned that I actually thought that Lightning Storm was going to continue going up from its market price of $130. And believe it or not, on TCG Player at the moment, you are currently looking at a market price of about 160. So at the time I'm posting this, there are 3 new sellers that have the card posted for about 145. But as far as buying from a reputable seller on there, you're looking at paying about $160 a piece. Now, I do want to direct your attention over to Troll and Toad for a second, because they currently have theirs listed for only $140 a piece. I know a lot of people joke about Troll and Toad near mint being damaged and whatnot, but I've actually ordered from them quite a few times, and the cards have been great every single time. So I would recommend trying them out if you haven't before. This video isn't sponsored or anything. I just personally, I really like Troll and Toad, and I've gotten great cards from them all the time. Anyways, guys, after the results of the 2 YCSs over the weekend, I feel like so many people were playing Lightning Storm that it just had to go up. I feel like it was being played at 3 by everyone, either in the main deck or the side deck, and a card that's just that staple, that impactful, and that game-changing just had to carry a huge price tag. I wouldn't feel too bad about picking them up because they aren't due to be reprinted until 2021, so you do get like that full year out of playing them. That's not to say that you can't play Twin Twisters or Evenly Matched or any sort of alternative like that, but I mean, they're just not the same cards. Now, I'm lucky I was able to get my set really early on, but whether or not you guys want to dish it out and grab the card now is completely up to you guys, right? Whether you think the card is going to settle back down to around $100, $120 or continue going up until it hits $200 a piece. Okay guys, so the last card I want to talk about for today is Fantastical Dragon Phantasme. So we all know about this card and about how it was over $100 just a year ago, but suddenly, with the announcement of the Master Rule changes, it has fallen like crazy. Currently, we're seeing about a $50 market price for this card. Now, the reason I want to bring up this card is to remind you all that we do have that reprint coming in Dual Overload, and with that confirmation, I would very highly recommend against picking up Phantasme anytime soon. At the 2 YCS events over the weekend, there were quite a few people main decking Phantasme as an option to draw into those hand traps. However, that's because we're still playing under Master Rule 4 with Link monsters being necessary in like basically every single deck. Obviously, in about a month, the Link monsters aren't going to be as necessary, so there's a very good chance that Phantasme is probably going to be moved over to the side deck. That being said, I think that it would definitely be a mistake to pick up Phantasme now. While the card will continue to see play, I think that with cards like Cross Sheep and the Predaplant Link and Needle Fiber in the game, Links are still going to be relevant, so there's still a place for Phantasme in the meta even after the Master Rule change. It just might not be something that's played or useful in every single matchup, so I think a lot of people are going to overlook its importance. Therefore, I'm going to recommend continuing to avoid Phantasme and maybe don't pick it up until after the official release of Dual Overload. Once we do have that reprint and it's out into the market, I think that prices will tank considerably to where Phantasme falls to around $30 to $40 a piece. I would grab the card then, as I'm expecting the card to go back up in value once people realize that it's still a really strong card despite the Master Rule changes. Alright guys, that is it for today's Market Watch episode. Hopefully you all enjoyed the conversation today. I am really excited for the release of Dual Overload. I really want to see what cards are in the set. I'm hoping that we get a ton of really awesome reprints, and I'm also really looking forward to seeing what Link monsters we actually do get confirmed and what kind of impact they'll have on the meta. Anyways, guys, if you did enjoy this video, please be sure to hit that thumbs up button for me. And as always, make sure you leave a comment down below. Let me know what else is going on with the market, maybe a card that I have missed, so I can potentially cover it in a future video to keep all of you guys as viewers as informed as possible. And if you did enjoy the conversation today, also consider subscribing to MST.TV so that you can keep up to date with everything going on with Tombox and with myself. And yeah, so until next time, guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.